Righto, viewers, I just want to apologise for a lack in the technology. You'll see the contrast. It's all I've tried everything to fix it. The mobile phone that I've got is not letting me go into landscape, so it covers your full TV screen. It's holding me without contrast. It's over contrasted, so I do apologise. I'm Dr. JW Ayoub, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Uh, yeah, all I can see is contrast on the screen. It's terrible. It won't let me use a external mic. I've got all sorts of trouble going on here at the moment, but we're doing the JW Cult Deception series, episode 22, the identity fusion, when the organisation became your entire self, your entire identity. Now, in episode 21, I showed how the social trap tied relationships, belonging and emotional safety to the organisation, to the institutional loyalty. You become loyal to the institution at the expense of your social life and everything else. In this episode, viewers, I will expose the deeper consequence. Your identity itself became fused with the organisation. Now, if during this live sirens start going off and dogs start barking and people are arguing in the background, this just seems to be a normal manifestation when I start these things, but we'll see how we go this time. You're no longer simply part of a system. You've been institutionalized. The cult will institutionalize your thinking. The system becomes part of how you now define yourself. This is called being taken into a psychological institutionalism. The cult, the matrix of the cult, the way in which it progresses will cause you to be psychologically institutionalized to dependence on them. And when identity fuses with the institution like the cult, like the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, questioning the cult feels like questioning your own existence. You become fused, right? Spiritually, psychologically, and physically fused to the Watchtower. Now, you might not think it, you might not feel it, but this is what's happened. The cult has consumed you. Now, you already know this feeling. You've felt it, you've been aware of it, but you push it back, you suppress. You did not just defend the Watchtower because you believed it was true. You defended it because it felt like defending yourself. You become part of the Watchtower. Now, identity fusion occurs, viewers, when personal worth, purpose, morality, belonging, and future hope become psychologically merged with organizational membership. You become institutionalized. You're now in with the inmates running the asylum. That's what this cult is. And let me just remind you, viewers, it's no different to Islam or anything like that. They're all based on false beliefs. You've got to remember the Jehovah Witnesses think Michael, the archangel, is the Lord Jesus Christ. It is just, you've been institutionalized. Once this fusion forms, separation no longer feels like just changing beliefs. It feels like losing yourself. Now, the deeper the fusion, because people go deeper, there's all different levels in ways in which different personalities and characters fuse, but the deeper the fusion, the harder truth feels to survive emotionally, because your conscience, you're going to be sitting there listening to stuff, and can somebody rate my picture from 1 to 10 in the comments? Just rate what you're seeing. From all I'm seeing is over contrast. Everything's flashing, blurring. The last 2 days, the technology's been so bad. But the deeper the fusion, the harder truth feels to survive emotionally. So now cognitive dissonance isn't voluntary, right? It's a part of your psychology. You have to go permanent cognitive dissonance. You're making yourself stupid. Basically, your mind's telling you this ain't the truth, but you're forcing the cognitive dissonance into your psyche, right? And you're causing a trauma bond with yourself and the cult. Identity fusion begins gradually, micro-incrementally. The person, the Jehovah Witness, increasingly interprets life, morality, and relationships and value through the organization, through the institutionalism of the cult, until the distinction between self and the cult weakens. So now this is called becoming institutionalized. These Jehovah Witnesses, when you see them standing at the carts and everything, they're institutionalized. The Jehovah's Witness will define themselves through organizational membership, fusion, absorbed by the cult, and this becomes their identity. Anything that challenges that will be shunned. You measure worth through compliance, through how well you see yourself and others complying with the institutionalism, the Watchtower institutionalism. And this is all theological abuse, viewers, a word that never gets used because religions like to protect themselves. You measure worth through compliance, which leads to evaluation of self and others, and then performance. How are others performing? How are I performing? And then dependence. Dependence on the cult. Are they depending on the cult? Well, everyone's in order then, aren't they? You fear separation as personal collapse. If you're not fully in, you're going into a personal collapse. But this is all imaginary. This is all fantasy. Leads to anxiety, instability, vulnerability. You'll find yourself withdrawing from people that you are normally close to. And this leads to a person defending the organisation and their institutionalised new outlook on life as though their own survival depends on it. These people become fanatical. Now, I think it's my hat that's causing that glare. Is it? No, it's not the hat. Although it's not helping from where I'm standing. Anyway, the distortion reframes organisational identity. This personal, what becomes now a distortion, reframes your identity. And what I mean by that is you become institutionalised to the cult. And this is now your spiritual identity. I must conform, I must comply, I must give my life to this cult. And it's all imaginary, it's all theological abuse. Loyalty to the Watchtower becomes emotionally inseparable. Absolutely, your loyalty to the cult is inseparable to your loyalty to God, your truth, the family in it, and future hope. I mean, this is massive, viewers. This is massive theological abuse. You confuse your institutionalism and the loyalty out of that with spiritual faithfulness, which leads to a deeper fusion to the cult, a mislabeling of everything around you, and a replacement of what's normal to the institutionalized way of life. You've got to admit it. The Jehovah Witnesses are different because they're institutionalized to the Watchtower. You interpret criticism as personal attack. You go defensive. You become sensitive. And then you go into protection mode. I'm going to protect myself and my cult, my institutionalism. People are looking at the Jehovah Witnesses and going, are these people right in the head? Meanwhile, the Jehovah Witnesses are running around saying everyone's mentally diseased. Do you know you can take someone to court for accusing you of that? These people aren't psychologists or psychiatrists. They've got no right to be making statements about civilians, normal civilians like that. If somebody says, or you get wind of somebody saying you're mentally diseased, sue them. Sue them, take them to court, sue them for everything you can get. And this results in truth feeling emotionally dangerous. This is part of the institutionalism. Truth will become emotionally dangerous because it threatens the structure holding your identity together, because now your identity is built on the matrix of the Watchtower institutionalism. This is theological abuse at its best. When your identity depends on the system staying true, evidence becomes emotionally threatening if it is evidence against it, before it is intellectually examined. So anything that threatens the institutionalism immediately becomes threatening and must be eroded. Identity fusion, viewers, creates chronic internal strain. That's trauma bond, because the body reacts to the institutionalism and any threat against it as a personal threat. Now, you experience criticism as an emotional injury. This is what happens to cult people. They'll go through tightness, agitation, and stress. You won't see this on the surface. I've been down here at the waterfront and challenged the Jehovah Witnesses at the carts, particularly when Anthony, what was his name? Anthony Morris got caught in the liquor shop. 3 or 4 Jehovah Witnesses had to take one of the ladies away. She was screaming and yelling, and she completely went demonized. 3 or 4 of the Jehovah Witnesses there had to drag her away. And I said to these people, I said, you be careful, because you've got no right to be out here not expecting to be answering questions to the public, because you're in a public space. If you want to come out into the public space, you've got to be prepared to answer the questions of the public, or don't come out here. Right? You've got more rights as a civilian in public space than what these people standing at the carts have. Right? So this leaves the nervous system of the Jehovah Witness locked into self-protection instead of honest examination, because the institutionalism is so insane, you can't even defend it with any integrity. Development. Pattern clarifier. This is how it works. Listen to this. This is the identity fusion pattern. This is the institutionalism and how, excuse me, and how it works. Now I'm standing like this because it's stopping the contrast in the camera. I've got to sort all this out, this technology. It's just gone wrong. Number 1, the organization becomes your primary source of truth. Number 2, then it becomes your social structure. So anybody that you love or loves you that's not in that institutionalism they're wiped. Then it becomes your moral framework. Then it becomes your future hope. And then criticism of the organization feels like criticism of you. And at that point, separation from the organization or any thought of it feels like psychological, spiritual death. Right? This is desperate stuff. This is catastrophic, psychological, spiritual, catastrophic stuff. If I get shunned or excommunicated from the institutionalism of this cult, deep in the back of the psyche of these people, it's a psychological and spiritual death. It's catastrophic. That's why it's hard to get these people out. And when they do come out, they go through such a psychosis. Oh, it can take decades for these people to heal. So the JW may think they're defending their doctrine, but they're actually defending the identity that they've built around the cult institutionalization of the Watchtower. And it's all based on theological abuse. You see, the more a person's identity depends on a system, particularly a deceptive system, a cult system like Islam, the Mormons, here in this case, the Jehovah Witnesses, the harder truth feels to tolerate, because the beliefs of the cult institutionalization are more important than the truth. And this is where it all goes wrong. So here's a scenario, viewers. A Jehovah Witness hears documented criticism of the institutionalization of the Watchtower. It's criticisms based on Watchtower history, and they react with immediate anger and personal offense before reviewing the evidence itself. Now, the criticism activates an identity defense mechanism, because the organization has become fused with self-definition. So if you're defining the Watchtower as a cult, then you're defining that person listening to you as a cult. You're going to get a reaction. Now, truth evaluation becomes secondary to all this, and it's secondary to preserving emotional and identity stability. So the Jehovah Witness wants to preserve their institutionalized cult emotional and identity stability over the truth. Truth doesn't matter, right? It's just a matter of staying in good stead with the institutionalized theological abuse of the Watchtower. And so the body responds pretty rapidly. Tight-chestedness, adrenaline, cortisol, agitation, defensive tone. You'll hear this. They all look smooth on the surface, but underneath they're just seething. And you'll see cognitive dissonance, which is mental narrowing. Their mentality and ability to have broad-mindedness becomes very narrow. So if we ask ourselves a question, we would ask the Jehovah Witness, why are you without the organization, or who are you without the organization defining you? How do you define yourself without the organization? If you ask the Jehovah Witness, how do you define yourself without the organization? They'll come up with some ridiculous, stupid answer, but it won't be the truth. And they may not even be able to answer at all. So let's do a resistance check. Number one, do you feel personally attacked when the Watchtower is questioned? Number 2, have you confused organizational, institutionalized, theologically abusive loyalty with personal worth? Does criticism of the Watchtower trigger emotion before investigation? Do you fear emptiness without the Watchtower? Well, let's do a root cause check. Was your identity built around your membership in the institution, the cult institution? Number 2, have you outsourced purpose and certainty to the organization? Number 3, did belonging become your definition of self? Did belonging to the institution, the cult, the Watchtower, become your definition of self? Number 3. 1, 2, 3. Number 4. Are you protecting identity rather than examining the truth? Well, let's ask another question. If your identity collapses when a claim is tested, was it built on truth or dependency? You better ask yourself. So let's take some action. Write 2 lists. Who I was taught to be inside the organization, that means institutionalized to the cult, versus who I actually am, independent of organizational identity. And a lot of these people won't remember who they were. It'll be very hard for them to answer, and do not filter the answers. As I come to a close, viewers, I'm Dr. JW Ayoub on the Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe just for encouragement. Comment to educate me. Share the video to help somebody else. And here's a proverb. Better is the person who rebuilds himself upon truth than the one who protects a false foundation for fear of collapse. For the structure built on fear weakens with pressure, but truth survives exposure. Here's a final closing statement, viewers. If identity remains fused to the organization, if you remain institutionalized to the Watchtower, every challenge to that institutionalism will feel like a threat to your own existence because you've been institutionalized. But when identity is separated from institutional control, truth can finally be examined without psychological and spiritual collapse. I'll never forget that day down here at the waterfront when I challenged the Watchtower people at the cart about Toni Morris, and one of the ladies was dragged away, manifesting. They had to drag her away. Never forget it. Viewers, in episode 23, entitled The Information Cage, when approved sources replaced open examination, I will expose how information control maintained the system by narrowing what members were allowed to see, read, and trust. Again, I apologize for the technology. It's failed. I'll take responsibility for that. Like, share, subscribe, comment to educate me. A lot of you exJWs really have information that's helpful. A lot of this stuff's built on that. Dr. JW Ayoub, I'll see you in the next one. You keep well, and bye for now.